Royal Guard BREAKS SUV window after Charlotte mouths, help me through glass. From the outside it looked perfect. Cameras were ready, streets were cleared, and the black SUV waited quietly near the entrance. Royal Guard stood in position, alert but calm, trained to notice everything while showing nothing. Charlotte stepped out with a composed face. She wore a soft smile that people had seen many times before. To the crowd, she looked confident and steady. No one could guess what she was feeling inside. She greeted officials politely, walked at a measured pace, and entered the SUV without hesitation. The door closed smoothly, sealing her behind dark glass. As the vehicle started moving, the world outside became distant. The sounds of the crowd faded. Inside the SUV, the air felt heavier. Charlotte sat upright, hands folded neatly in her lap, exactly as expected. Anyone watching from outside would see nothing unusual, but inside her chest, her heart was beating faster than normal. She tried to stay calm. She reminded herself to breathe slowly, just as she had been taught. She looked straight ahead, then slightly to the side. Her eyes reflected something different today, unease. The SUV moved through familiar streets, surrounded by escort vehicles. Everything was under control, or at least that was how it looked. One of the royal guards walked alongside the motorcade as it slowed near a junction. His job was routine protection, something he had done countless times. He had seen crowds, emergencies, and false alarms. He trusted procedure. He trusted training. Still, he had learned that danger did not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it came quietly. As the SUV slowed, Charlotte shifted slightly in her seat. It was a small movement, easy to miss. She leaned just a little closer to the window. Her eyes searched the outside, not wildly but carefully. She was not looking at the crowd. She was looking for one person. The guard glanced toward the vehicle as he always did. At first, he saw nothing unusual. Then he saw her eyes. They were fixed, intense, and focused directly on him. That caught his attention. People inside protected vehicles rarely made eye contact like that. Charlotte's lips moved, slowly, carefully. She did not exaggerate the movement. She did not wave or knock. She knew cameras were everywhere. She knew every action could be misread. So she chose the smallest signal possible. Her lips formed two words. The glass blocked sound but not meaning. The guard felt a sudden tightening in his chest. His mind told him to stay calm. His training told him not to assume. But his eyes told him something was wrong. He blinked once, then looked again. Charlotte did not look away. Her lips moved again, slower this time, more clearly. Help me. The SUV continued rolling forward. Just seconds passed, but they felt longer. The guard's heart beat harder. Was he mistaken? Was it stress? Was she joking or stretching or simply speaking to someone inside? His training warned him against jumping to conclusions. But there was something else. Charlotte's expression did not match confusion or casual talk. Her face was controlled, but her eyes carried fear. Not panic, fear held tightly, like something being hidden for a long time. The guard kept pace with the vehicle. He noticed her hand slowly lift and rest against the glass. It did not bang. It did not press hard. It simply touched the window as if testing whether the world outside was real. His mind raced. If he was wrong, he would cause chaos. If he was right and did nothing, the cost could be far worse. The SUV moved forward, then slowed again as traffic adjusted. Charlotte's eyes never left him. She did not speak again. She did not need to. The message was already sent. Around them, everything looked normal. People waved. Phones were raised. Other guards stayed focused on the perimeter. No one else seemed to notice anything unusual. The guard felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. This was the kind of moment training could not fully prepare you for. Rules existed for order, but moments like this demanded judgment. He watched the SUV closely. He looked for any sign that someone else inside had noticed her behavior. From the outside, nothing looked wrong. That was what made it more dangerous. Charlotte sat back slightly, forcing herself to return to her composed posture. She knew she had done all she could without drawing attention. Now she had to wait. Every second felt uncertain. She did not know if the guard understood. She did not know if he believed her. The guard adjusted his stance. His eyes followed the vehicle. His thoughts were clear now. Whatever consequences came later, he could not ignore what he had seen. Too many signs pointed in the same direction. The SUV rolled forward again, still surrounded by security, still appearing safe to everyone watching. But something had changed. A silent line had been crossed. A routine day was no longer routine. Inside the vehicle, Charlotte kept her breathing steady. Her heart raced, but her face remained calm. She stared ahead, knowing that her life might depend on whether one person chose to trust his instincts. Outside, the guard walked with purpose now, his attention locked on the SUV. He was no longer just following protocol. He was preparing for a decision that could change everything. The street looked peaceful. The moment looked ordinary, but beneath the surface, tension grew with every passing second. What happened next would break routine, shatter calm, and expose a truth that had been hidden behind dark glass. And neither Charlotte nor the guard knew how the world would react once silence was broken. The SUV continued moving through the city streets, smooth and steady, as if nothing unusual had happened. From the outside, it was just another royal convoy passing by. People watched, waved, and recorded videos on their phones. Traffic was controlled. Guards stayed alert. Everything followed the plan. But inside the vehicle, Charlotte felt time stretch in a strange way. Each second felt heavier than the last. She sat still, her back straight, her face calm. Years of public life had trained her well. Even now, she knew she could not show fear openly. Fear would raise questions. Fear would draw attention. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers gently touching, but her palms were damp. Her heart beat fast, yet she forced her breathing to stay slow. She replayed the moment again and again in her mind. Had he seen her? Had he understood? Or had her silent message vanished behind the glass like a reflection? She dared not look again. Looking too much would seem strange. Instead, she stared ahead, pretending to observe the road. Inside, her thoughts raced. She knew she had taken a risk, but she also knew she had no other choice. Outside, the guard kept walking beside the SUV. His face remained neutral, his posture professional. Anyone watching him would see nothing more than a trained protector doing his duty. But inside his mind, everything was loud. He replayed the image of her lips forming those words. He questioned himself again and again. Training taught him to rely on facts, not feelings. Yet training also taught him to watch behavior, not just situations. And her behavior had been wrong, subtly wrong, carefully wrong. He scanned the vehicle, checking reflections in the glass. He looked for movement inside, any sign that could explain what he saw. But there was nothing that eased his concern. The convoy slowed slightly as it approached another controlled area. Radios crackled softly among the guards. Short messages were exchanged, calm and routine. No alerts, no warnings. The guard felt a deep pressure in his chest. This was the most dangerous kind of situation, the kind that looked normal. Charlotte shifted her gaze just enough to see movement outside. The guard was still there. That gave her a small spark of hope. She did not look directly at him, but she could sense his presence. She wondered if he was still thinking about what he saw or if he had already dismissed it. Inside the SUV, the silence felt heavy. She was not alone in the vehicle, but she felt alone all the same. She chose not to move, not to speak. She knew that the smallest mistake could make things worse. The guard noticed that she had gone still again, too still. Most people relaxed once inside a protected vehicle. They shifted, checked their phones, spoke quietly. Charlotte did none of that. Her stillness felt like control, not comfort. His instincts sharpened. He adjusted his pace to stay aligned with her window. He knew cameras were everywhere, including on him. Any sudden move would raise questions, so he chose patience. The SUV rolled past buildings and quiet streets. The city looked peaceful, almost unaware of the tension sealed inside the moving vehicle. Children waved flags. People smiled. Life continued normally. Charlotte's thoughts drifted to how many times she had smiled through discomfort before. How many times she had stayed silent because silence was expected. She had learned long ago that speaking out was not always allowed, but today felt different. Today felt dangerous. She pressed her lips together gently, holding herself together. Her eyes reflected determination now, not just fear. If help did not come now, she did not know when it would. Outside, the guard made a small decision. He changed position slightly, enough to signal another guard without drawing attention. Just a look, a brief glance. It was nothing official, nothing that would trigger alarms, but it was a quiet message. Something is not right. The other guard noticed but did not react yet. He trusted his colleague's judgment, but he also knew the rules. They continued walking, alert and calm. The convoy slowed again, this time more noticeably. Charlotte felt the change in motion. Her heart jumped. She resisted the urge to look around. She waited. The guard took advantage of the slower pace. He focused on Charlotte again. This time she turned her head just slightly. Their eyes met for less than a second. That second was enough. Her eyes spoke what her lips could not anymore. Fear, urgency, a silent plea. The guard felt certainty replace doubt. This was no misunderstanding. This was no mistake. Something was wrong, and it was happening now. He kept his face calm, but his body prepared for action. His breathing deepened. His grip tightened slightly. He listened closely to the radio chatter, searching for any sign that others had noticed something. Nothing. Charlotte felt that brief eye contact like a lifeline. She did not know what would happen next, but she knew she was seen, truly seen. That alone gave her strength. The SUV came to a near stop. The city noise felt distant. The moment hung in the air, fragile and uncertain. The guard knew that whatever he chose to do next would change everything. Acting without full confirmation could bring consequences. Not acting could be unforgivable. He remembered why he had chosen this duty in the first place. Not for power, not for recognition, but to protect lives even when the cost was high. Inside the vehicle, Charlotte closed her eyes briefly, just for a moment. She whispered a quiet hope to herself, careful that no sound escaped. When she opened her eyes again, she sat tall, ready for whatever came next. The world outside remained calm, unaware that a breaking point was seconds away. Routine still held its shape, but cracks were forming beneath it. The guard took one last steadying breath. His training had brought him this far. Now, his judgment would take him the rest of the way. The next moment would no longer be silent. The SUV slowed to a complete stop near a wide open stretch of road. From the outside, it looked planned, like a normal pause in a carefully managed route. Guards adjusted positions smoothly. Radios stayed calm. No alarms sounded. To everyone watching, it was just another controlled moment. But inside the SUV, Charlotte felt her body tense. She sensed the change immediately. Her heart pounded, yet her face stayed calm. She knew something was about to happen. She did not know what, but she felt it in the air like a quiet storm building. Outside, the guard stopped walking. His mind was clear now. Doubt had faded. The signs were too strong to ignore. He looked once more at Charlotte through the glass. Her eyes met his, steady but filled with urgency. She did not move. She did not speak. She did not need to. That was enough. He stepped closer to the SUV, his movements controlled but firm. Other guards noticed the shift. A few turned their heads. Radios crackled softly with questions, but no one raised their voice. Everything still appeared calm. The guard raised his hand slightly, signaling the driver to wait. The driver hesitated, confused, but followed the gesture. The vehicle stayed still. Charlotte's breath caught in her chest. This was it. Whatever came next would decide everything. She kept her posture straight, her hands still. She trusted the guard, even though she had never spoken to him before. Trust was all she had left. The guard placed himself beside the window. He could see her clearly now. Her expression was composed, but her eyes carried the truth. She was asking for help without sound, without movement, just with her presence. Time seemed to slow. The city noise faded into the background. The guard's training echoed in his mind, rules, steps, warnings. But louder than all of that was one simple thought: protect. He made his choice. With a quick motion, he struck the window with the proper tool he carried for emergencies. The sound was sharp and sudden. The glass broke outward, scattering safely away. It was loud enough to cut through the calm, loud enough to turn heads. Everything changed instantly. Voices rose. Radios burst with urgent messages. Guards moved quickly, forming a protective circle. The planned routine collapsed into action. People nearby stepped back, surprised and confused. Inside the SUV, Charlotte flinched for a split second, then felt fresh air rush in. The barrier between her and the outside world was gone. The guard reached in carefully, his voice calm and steady as he spoke to her for the first time. "You're safe," he said firmly. "I've got you." Those words felt unreal to her. Safe. She nodded once, unable to speak. Her body felt light, almost weak, as if all the tension she had held for so long was finally releasing. The guard helped her unbuckle and guided her gently out of the vehicle. Other guards stepped in immediately, shielding her from view. Their movements were fast but controlled. No one shouted. No one panicked. Training took over. Charlotte's feet touched the ground. She stood, steady but shaken. She took a deep breath, feeling the world return to her senses. The noise, the air, the presence of others, it all felt overwhelming and grounding at the same time. She looked at the guard who had acted. For the first time, she saw his face clearly. He did not look proud or dramatic. He looked focused, serious, and relieved. Officials began asking questions at once. What happened? Why was the window broken? Who gave the order? Voices overlapped, urgent and sharp. The guard spoke clearly and simply. "I saw a signal. I acted to protect." Some faces showed shock. Others showed concern. A few showed doubt. Breaking protocol was serious. Acting alone carried consequences. Everyone knew that. But Charlotte stood there, wrapped in protection, listening. She took a breath and found her voice. "He saw the truth," she said quietly. The words cut through the noise. Conversations paused. Eyes turned toward her. She did not explain further. She did not need to. Her calm certainty said everything. The area was secured quickly. The convoy route was abandoned. New plans were made in minutes. Charlotte was guided toward another vehicle, one prepared quickly and carefully. As she moved, she felt the weight lift from her chest. Fear was still there, but it no longer controlled her. She was no longer alone behind glass. The guard stepped back slightly as others took over. His role was done for now. He felt the rush of what had just happened settle into his body. His hands trembled just a little, though his face stayed calm. He knew questions would come. Reviews, reports. Long discussions about rules and decisions. He accepted that. Whatever came next, he would face it. Charlotte paused before entering the new vehicle. She turned back toward the guard. Their eyes met again, this time without glass between them. "Thank you," she said simply. He nodded once, respectful and quiet. No words were needed. As the new vehicle moved away, the scene behind them slowly returned to order. Broken glass was cleared. Guards resumed positions. The crowd buzzed with confusion and curiosity. Cameras captured pieces of the moment, but not the truth behind it. Inside the moving vehicle, Charlotte sat quietly, wrapped in safety. She looked out through clear glass now, no longer feeling trapped. Her reflection stared back at her, tired, strong, and alive. Behind her, the guard remained standing, watching the vehicle disappear down the road. He knew the story was far from over. But one thing was certain. Silence had been broken, and because of that, a life had changed forever. The calm of routine would never feel the same again. The road ahead felt quieter than before, even though the city around them was still busy. Inside the new vehicle, Charlotte sat back in her seat, wrapped in calm voices and careful attention. Guards checked in softly, asking if she was comfortable, if she needed anything. She answered with small nods and short replies. Her mind was still catching up with what had just happened. Her hands rested on her lap, but this time they were no longer tense. The tight feeling in her chest had slowly loosened. She looked out the window at passing buildings and people who had no idea how close everything had come to going wrong. Life outside moved on, unaware. At a secure location, the vehicle came to a stop. Charlotte was guided inside, away from noise and cameras. The space was quiet, clean, and calm. It felt safe but also strange. For the first time in a long while, she was not performing a role. She was just herself. She sat down and took a deep breath. It came out shaky. A staff member offered her water. She accepted, her hand steady now. With each sip, she felt more present, more real. Questions began gently, not sharp or demanding, but careful and respectful. People wanted to understand what had happened. Charlotte listened first. She needed a moment before speaking. When she finally did, her voice was soft but clear. She explained how things had felt wrong long before the vehicle stopped, how silence had been her only option, how she had searched for someone who would notice. She did not go into details she was not ready to share. She spoke only the truth she could carry. The room stayed quiet as she spoke. No one interrupted. No one doubted her. Her calm honesty filled the space. Elsewhere, the guard was standing alone for a moment, away from the noise. The adrenaline had faded, leaving behind a deep tiredness. He leaned against a wall and closed his eyes briefly. His mind replayed the sound of breaking glass, the look in Charlotte's eyes, the rush of action. He knew reviews would follow. Reports would be written. Every second of his decision would be examined. He welcomed it. He had acted with purpose. That was enough. A senior officer approached him. There was no anger in his expression, only seriousness. The guard straightened, ready for questions. "You acted without instruction," the officer said calmly. "Yes," the guard replied. "Why?" The guard did not hesitate. "Because she asked for help." The officer studied him for a long moment, then he nodded slowly. "We'll talk more soon." That was all. Back with Charlotte, time passed gently. She rested, surrounded by people who ensured she was safe. Her thoughts wandered to the guard who had seen her. She hoped he was not in trouble. She hoped her words would protect him the way his actions had protected her. Later, she was asked if she wished to make a brief statement. She thought carefully. Words mattered. Silence had protected others for too long. She agreed. When the moment came, cameras were positioned, but the room stayed calm. Charlotte stood tall, her expression steady. She spoke simply, choosing honesty over drama. She said she was safe. She said she was grateful. She said that one person had paid attention when it mattered most. She did not give names. She did not place blame. She focused on gratitude and awareness. Her words traveled quickly. People listened. Questions followed, but she did not answer them all. She did not need to. Public attention grew, but inside the secure space, Charlotte felt a sense of peace she had not known before. Speaking her truth, even partially, felt like stepping into light after a long time in shadow. The guard watched the statement later, standing quietly with others. Hearing her words made something shift inside him. He felt relief, not pride. He had done his duty, nothing more. Reviews continued behind closed doors. Procedures were discussed. Protocols were questioned. Some defended the rules. Others defended the choice made in that moment. What could not be denied was this: something had been prevented, something serious. Charlotte spent the evening resting. She wrote a short note by hand, something personal she asked to be delivered privately. It was simple, just a few lines. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for acting." When the guard received the note, he read it once, then again. He folded it carefully and placed it in his pocket. He said nothing, but his shoulders relaxed for the first time that day. As night settled over the city, the noise slowly faded. The broken glass had been cleaned. The streets returned to normal, but beneath the calm, conversations continued. People talked about awareness, about paying attention, about the power of one moment. Charlotte lay down that night, tired but calm. She knew the story was not finished. There would be more discussions, more decisions, more truth to come. But for now, she was safe. And somewhere nearby, a guard stood watch, understanding that sometimes the greatest protection begins with simply believing what you see. The day had changed them both, and nothing would ever feel quite the same again. The morning after the incident, the city felt the same as always, but for those involved, nothing would ever feel normal again. Charlotte woke up early, the sunlight spilling gently through the curtains. For the first time in hours, she felt a sense of control. She moved slowly, aware of every small detail, appreciating the quiet around her. The previous day's events replayed in her mind, not in fear this time, but as a reminder of how quickly life could change. She thought about the moment she had pressed her lips to the glass, silently asking for help. How strange it had been that such a small, simple act could carry such weight. Yet it had worked. Someone had seen her, someone had acted, and because of that, she was safe. She could not help but feel gratitude that went deeper than words. Gratitude for the human instinct that rose above rules and procedure. In another part of the city, the guard was already awake, reviewing the day ahead. He moved with quiet precision, aware that the days following the incident would be different. Everyone would have questions. Investigations would begin, and yet he felt no regret. His mind went over the moment again, the look in Charlotte's eyes, the silent message, the split-second decision that changed everything. He had acted not for recognition, but because it was right. That thought gave him a calm center in a day full of uncertainty. Charlotte prepared for the day, going through her routine carefully. She dressed thoughtfully, choosing clothes that would allow her to move easily if needed, yet still appeared formal. Every choice mattered, even the smallest. She knew that she had been part of something extraordinary, and her actions moving forward would be guided by that awareness. Outside, the city was buzzing. News of the incident had spread quickly, though details remained scarce. Most people only knew that a royal convoy had paused and a window had been broken. Speculation filled the air, but Charlotte and the guard understood the truth, the story behind the headlines. It was a story of quiet courage, of instinct over procedure, of humanity in a world that often demanded compliance over conscience. Later that morning, Charlotte was escorted to a secure room where senior officials waited. The conversation was calm, deliberate, focused on understanding the situation. She spoke clearly, explaining only what she felt necessary. Her words were precise, honest, and without embellishment. She did not want drama. She only wanted to ensure that the right lessons were learned, that safety and awareness became priorities, and that the guard who had acted would be recognized for his courage rather than punished for protocol violations. The officials listened carefully. Some nodded, others took notes. Questions were asked, but Charlotte remained composed. Each answer she gave was thoughtful, demonstrating clarity and poise despite the lingering tension from the previous day. She described the small signals, the silent plea, and the urgency she had felt. She did not dramatize it, she did not exaggerate. The truth alone carried power. Meanwhile, the guard was brought in separately for review. He remained calm, professional, answering questions with clarity and honesty. He explained his reasoning simply. He saw someone in danger and acted to protect her. His words were straightforward, devoid of pride or arrogance. The panel recognized his calmness and decisiveness as the exact qualities required in moments like this. Despite the gravity of the situation, both Charlotte and the guard found comfort in the knowledge that the right choice had been made. They had relied on instinct, humanity, and trust, and it had worked. Protocols and rules were important, but in certain moments, they could never replace courage and attention. The experience left them both changed, more aware of how small actions could carry immense weight. By mid-afternoon, Charlotte returned to her private quarters. She took a moment to reflect quietly, sitting near a window and watching the city below. People moved through their daily routines, unaware of how close a dangerous moment had come. Charlotte thought about the fleeting nature of safety, the fragility of life, and the power of being truly seen. She felt gratitude, not only for the guards' actions but for the reminder that sometimes the simplest acts, a glance, a silent plea, a decision to act, could alter the course of events entirely. The guard, after completing his review, returned to his post. He walked through the familiar halls with a new awareness. The day was different. His steps were measured, his mind clear, knowing that every decision mattered. His colleagues acknowledged him with subtle nods, understanding that his courage had changed everything. It was a quiet acknowledgement but meaningful, a recognition without the need for headlines. In the evening, Charlotte chose to address the staff and team involved personally. She spoke softly, expressing gratitude and respect. Her words were simple, sincere, and heartfelt. She thanked the guard for noticing her, for acting decisively, and for prioritizing humanity over rigid rules. The room was silent, attentive. Everyone felt the weight of what had occurred, the relief that followed, and the lesson learned. Vigilance and compassion could never be underestimated. The news outlets continued their coverage, but now there was a deeper understanding behind the headlines. The story was no longer just about a broken window or a convoy pause. It was about courage, instinct, and quiet heroism. People everywhere could relate to the moment. The need to be seen, the hope that someone would notice, the bravery required to act. As night fell, Charlotte reflected once more. The fear she had carried was no longer overwhelming. Instead, it had transformed into respect for herself, for those who protect, and for the delicate balance between rules and humanity. She felt lighter, not because the danger had passed, but because she had been seen and help had come. The guard, on the other hand, returned to his usual routine with renewed focus. Yet inside, he carried the quiet satisfaction of knowing he had done what was right when it mattered most. The decision could have been questioned, criticized, or reviewed for mistakes, but he knew the truth. In a moment, instinct and awareness had saved a life. That understanding was enough. Charlotte and the guard would never forget that day. The incident became a part of their lives, a reminder that bravery could be found in the smallest actions, and that one person noticing could make all the difference. The SUV window remained a symbol, not of damage, but of the life-changing power of attention, courage, and care. In the weeks that followed, both moved forward. Charlotte resumed her duties with a newfound confidence, aware of her own strength and the support around her. The guard continued his service, respected quietly but deeply by those who knew the full story. Their connection remained unspoken, yet profound, a bond forged in a single moment of clarity, trust, and decisive action. Life returned to its rhythm, but neither would ever forget. That day had proven a simple truth. Sometimes, all it takes is one person to notice, one person to act, and one brief moment to change everything. And in that knowledge, both found not only relief, but purpose, courage, and a lasting sense of humanity that would guide them for years to come. The city slept that night, calm and unaware. But inside, two lives had been forever changed, not by rules, not by ceremony, but by attention, courage, and the power of seeing another human being in need. A simple act, a quiet glance, and a decision to act had transformed fear into safety, tension into relief, and uncertainty into trust. That moment would live in memory forever, a testament to the strength of instinct, empathy, and the human spirit.